Thank you for joining us for this episode. Today, we're joined by doctors Elise Kramer and Stephanie Wu. We're going to be speaking about marketing your myopia management practice. Doctors Kramer and Wu have specialty contact lens practices dedicated to helping patients with contact lens needs achieve great success. Both doctors have extensive backgrounds in speaking and consulting, and both have a unique insight in how to grow specialty contact lens practices.
Optometric Insights Media proudly presents the Myopia Podcast, where we give you the latest myopia research, clinical topics, and industry insights. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome myopia content. And now to our host, a massive myopia manager himself, Dr. David Kading.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Myopia Podcast. I'm so excited again to have Dr. Elise Kramer and Dr. Stephanie Wu, fan favorites of the Myopia Podcast. Thank you for joining us, ladies, for this episode.
Thanks for having us.
I wanted to talk to the two of you. You both have thriving practices around specialty contact lenses, myopia being a part of that. A little bit about how people find out about you and how they learn. With referral-based practices, we've got to get the word out somehow. Myopia being something that nearly 50% of the U.S. population has. Certainly, word of mouth is a good component. But there's also components about referring doctors and sharing with them. So I wanted to spend a bit of this episode kind of talking with you about how people are finding out about you with regards to myopia. So Dr. Wu, can you start us off? How are people finding you in your practice with regards to myopia?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm in a very challenging situation because my new practice in Vegas, we don't do any primary care anymore. And in my old practice, that was where most of the referrals came from, were patients that I saw in my own practice that had myopia, and then I would educate the parents right then and there. But in my new practice, I don't have that opportunity. So I rely a ton on social media and digital marketing and ads really to drive patients in. So currently we've got a team that optimizes our website to make sure that we have all the right keywords on there. So if somebody is searching for those types of terms, that our clinic will pop up in the Google search engine. We do social media posts. So I do things on Instagram and Facebook on either interesting cases, or if there's a new product or service available, I will kind of blast it out there. And then we've also did paid campaigns where we've got a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad about myopia control. And we've also done Google ads. I would say out of all of those, the Google ads have been the most successful. And that was actually a tip that I got from Dr. Kramer, because she is very, very experienced with digital marketing. And she was totally right. The Google ads are much more effective than really anything else. And then it really does take a lot of word of mouth. Like you said, Dr. Kading, you really have to have people out there. And once one family is successful, then they tell another one. And then that's how you kind of start to snowball it. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what Dr. Kramer does.
Well, one thing that I have noticed, and there was a recent post about this. So just if you're listening, Google ads and social media posts, I just found out don't work if you live in the Miami, Vegas, or Seattle area. So don't worry about trying in those regions. But everywhere else in the country, it's working. But if you live in our regions, they're not working. Dr. Kramer.
I think there's enough myopia to go around.
There is.
But yeah, so I'm glad you tried those Google ads, Dr. Wu, and I'm glad they worked for you. One thing I do is I send monthly newsletters to my patients. So actually August is coming up, and that is Child Health Awareness Month. So that's going to be a big one for us to promote to our patients. Every time we get a patient that schedules an eye exam, we get their email, and we send monthly, sometimes 2 newsletters a month to our own patients. So that's internal marketing right there. I think one of the best people, or the best group of people to market to, is corporate ODs. Myopia management is should be standard of care, right? Because it is such a growing epidemic and everyone should be doing it. But some people don't have time, they don't have resources. And I find that a lot of ODs in corporate may not have the time. Some of them are slammed with patients every 15 minutes, sometimes 4 patients in 30 minutes. So I think that those are the people that may want to do myopia management, may not have the resources or time, and are interested in co-managing with someone like myself, like you guys, and those are where a lot of the referrals can come from. So I think, reaching out to them. I have the privilege of having a lot of students shadow me in the office, and then they're in like 4th year, so a lot of them stay in the area and get corporate jobs, and then end up sending me patients. So that's one of the ways that I've gotten a lot of them. And I think that, again, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are great ways of and SEO. A lot of parents are concerned and will research because their child's prescription is going up every year, and they'll find, what do I do if my child's prescription goes up every year? So writing content on that is really important.
So I'm glad, Dr. Wu, that you pointed out that that Google Ads have potentially been the most instrumental and influential. I would agree with you that as far as all digital marketing is concerned, I think that's the number one place. If you don't know how to do that, you can simply Google it of how to do keywords and how to do Google marketing, and it walks you right through it. And you can pick what the keywords are that you wanted to be that. And if you don't know what we're even talking about, if you search in Google for anything, the top 2 or 3 or 4 hits will have a little ad next to them. And what that means is that if you click on that, then it will direct you to their website or to a landing page, something that they've made for that then specifically targets whatever it is that you were searching for. And they get charged every time that you see the ad, as well as when you click on it. And and then if you are doing it, if you're the one posting the ad, you can see the metrics of who's searching for and what are they searching for. So you can go in specifically and say myopia, nearsighted, glasses for kids, put in the key phrases that you want. The other nice thing about it is you can specifically select the regions or on a map and say, hey, I want to target this area and this is what I want to do. I'm willing to spend this much money per day or per month that I want to do. And it allows you to go through that. And probably would be a good idea for us in the future to help our colleagues learn more about that, ladies. I don't know if either of you has an educational initiative around helping optometrists, but that would be really helpful. So let's talk a little bit about the social media side of things. There's a lot of people out there that have a social media page. They may have one for their practice and they've got 72 followers, and then they have their own personal Facebook page and their own personal Instagram. But how do you get started social media marketing for your practice so that it yields a result? How do you go about that? And Elise, you mentioned Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Like, do I have to go in all of them, or how do I get started in that? I'm overwhelmed. I want to stop right now.
Well, I think I would start with Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn is a little bit more for business, kind of networking with other practitioners. So I would leave that on the side for now. And if you want to market to patients, I think that Instagram and Facebook are the place to start. First of all, it's free. So that's great. You can create a page on Facebook. And one of the things that you can do on Facebook is a little scary in that it has a lot of information about us, but it's also beneficial in the sense that you can actually target mothers of children between 3 and 12 years old in affluent neighborhoods. Like, you can literally target that stuff. And that's where Facebook ads come in. I don't want to take credit for all the work I do on social media because honestly, I don't have time. So I have delegated all of that to someone who specializes in that. And that's an investment I've made that has been extremely beneficial. Obviously, if someone is just starting their practice out, they may not have that revenue yet. But I would start by creating the pages, which are free, maybe doing some ads on Instagram, maybe just starting to follow people, commenting and building a following, posting interesting information. And then once you start making revenue, I do recommend delegating that stuff out. And that's something I do personally.
Dr. Wu, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Kramer. I think that Facebook is probably the easiest platform for most people to understand, to just start a page. And it's pretty simple, self-explanatory. And Instagram is great because it's owned by the same company now. So you can, if you post something on one thing, it can automatically post on the other thing if you have linked them. So if you have a Facebook page, Contact Lens Institute of Nevada, and the Instagram page as well, I will just do one post, but it will go to those platforms. There's other companies like Hootsuite, things like that, where it will post to multiple social media outlets. That's for a cost though, so it's not free. But that way you're just not reinventing the wheel every time you're posting something. And I agree with Dr. Kramer, having somebody help. Like, I don't do my SEO. I have a company that does the SEO backlinks because I would never have time to do all that on my own. But I still do my social media stuff as far as Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, things like that. I will do those myself. But as I get busier, I will absolutely have somebody else that is an expert in that take that over. Since I'm a beginning practice, I just don't have the funding for that at the moment. But absolutely, that is on the list.
So one thing I would recommend to you is, if you have an interest in growing your scleral lens practice, your myopia practice, whatever it be, in our case being myopia management, set up to have about a half hour to an hour a month that you do marketing. And in addition to that, if you were spending money on yellow pages, just transfer that money over to social media ads, right? It's not something that costs all that much money, but can bring a far better return on investment. So dedicating, $100 or $200 or $300 a year or a month will bring about an investment far better than what you were spending. Most optometric practices, from what we know about businesses, are spending about 1% to 2% of their revenue in marketing. And if you have a specific area that you're wanting to grow, say myopia management, which tends to yield a far better return anytime you get somebody moving forward, invest a little bit more money into that. And in that once a month or twice a month that you set this up, sit down with somebody, whether it's somebody that you've hired to do this for you, like Dr. Kramer had pointed out, she has somebody, or somebody in your office, and just say, these are the messages that I am interested in getting out. We can look for some images that help with this, and then sit down and just write for 20 minutes or a half hour, some key points, maybe some statistics that are key to you, and have somebody either post them once a week, once a month, or once every other week, every other day, or utilize a service. And Dr. Wu mentioned Hootsuite, where you can schedule it out and say, we're going to schedule this for the rest of the month and see how it goes. Now, a key part of this that we can't avoid that Elise mentioned is there's a social aspect of social media marketing. And the social aspect is you have to be social with the posts that you put out there. When somebody comments on something you put, you need to comment back and talk with them and start a conversation. And you need to do that with other people who are in the same sphere as you as well. And, if your family is, involved with the church, and you're on the church Facebook page talking with families about things that are going on and getting them interested in areas that you're interested in as well. And this is a good way to do that. Ladies, I've discovered that my practice grew with myopia management with my own patients by bringing them back. Dr. Wu, you had mentioned this, but now we've kind of hit the end of it, where we have pretty much every myopic child in my practice that comes in for an eye exam. So now we're growing through these referrals. And one of the best referrals, even though we've got this huge community, is word of mouth from existing patients. And I was curious if either of you specifically target that in some way, or talk to parents about talking to other parents, and what you say to them.
Yeah, so I have, for example, someone who came in for orthokeratology, and that was my youngest patient, was doing orthokeratology. He's like 4 years old, and he was in class with someone else. And his mom was so excited about it that she told the other moms, and then they came in, and I thought that was a great source, and obviously very thankful for that. So, happy patients is a great way to get other patients in, and their classmates, especially when we're talking about myopia management, orthokeratology. Even I have a patient that their teacher wanted to do orthokeratology because they loved that the child didn't need glasses anymore during the day. So I think word of mouth is essential and a great part of internal marketing within your practice. What really helps is just telling patients to tell other family members. It's important to catch myopia early because it does progress. So if they have cousins, if they have siblings, I try to get all of them in and try to educate them that way. Again, education is probably one of the most important parts of the myopia management consultation.
Yeah, and there's a well-known fact that humans are not very good at asking for help. And I remember one of my business coaches telling me that in the very beginning. He's like, you have to ask patients to help you by leaving you a review, doing a video testimonial, writing something that you can have on your website. And it is hard. I hate asking patients to do it. I hate asking them, but I've gotten much better over the years, saying, hey, and actually Dr. Kramer really helped craft a kind of a speech that didn't sound desperate, but and she says that what she does is she'll ask them, I'd like to ask you a favor. No pressure at all, but you've done so well in these lenses, and I would love to let other people know about your story. Is there any way you would be willing to leave us a video testimonial? And most patients that are successful in the lens, they want to help you, so they have no problem doing it. I very rarely have any patients that don't feel comfortable doing it for one reason or another. So I think making sure that you do ask them for some sort of review or feedback, whether it's verbal or video or written, is very, very helpful for the practice. And like Dr. Kramer said, even having that conversation after, let's say, little Betty is done with her ortho K, finalized, and now we don't need to see her for 4 months, saying, hey, Betty's doing so great in these lenses. I would appreciate it if you would tell any of her friends or parents of kids that she hangs out with, and parents, again, if it's something that their kid's doing really well in, they really do want to share.
And one thing that works really well in kids is positive reinforcement. And if you get them to demonstrate how they put in or take out their orthokeratology lens or their MySight lens, they're so proud of themselves. So you video taping it is positive reinforcement. Plus, you get an application removal video for your next kid. So it's great. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Do you have a form of some sort that you give to these patients so that you can then share that information out and about? Do you have them sign something that says what?
I have a consent form for videos and photos because I like to share cases, and I also like to share testimonial videos like Dr. Wu. And so I do have a form. I'm happy to send it to you or whoever's interested. And it's just like a generic kind of letter saying I consent for you to be able to share my videos and photos on public platforms without sharing any, personal information, of course, about the patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then same thing, especially if there's any way for them to identify a patient. So sometimes if we're showing a picture of like their eyelids or something, or where you need like not just a close up of their eye, but you're going to be able to tell who the patient is, then I always get the written consent and explain to them that, this is the picture that will be viewed. Are you okay with this? Because sometimes they're fine if you can't tell who it is, or you do some sort of a case report and there's no personal identifiers. But if you're actually showing like their face or something, then you would want to make sure to just educate them a bit more on that so that they feel comfortable.
Yeah. And I found that most people are pretty willing to share, especially if it's helpful. And kids. And one other area, in both of you kind of mentioned this, is to talk to the kid, right? And say, hey, do you like this? Is this better than wearing glasses? Is this kind of cool? And, if you have any friends that are wearing glasses, be sure to share with them how cool it is. And, say the same thing with the parents. And, the other thing is, if you've seen this child now a year or 2 years or 3 years, and you have already really slowed down the progression, those are key components as well, because, at 1 month in, now you've corrected their vision, or they're now wearing a contact lens successfully. But, if you're doing ortho-K, say, and then a year later you say, we've hardly seen any progression at all. This is working so well. Such excitement, and bring that excitement around, and then say to the parent, if this is working really, really well for your kid, if you know anybody else that is in your community, we'd love to be able to share that. And I don't want to impose this upon the other ladies, but something we're implementing now that school is kind of getting started and, is going again here in the fall, is even a referral program. If you send somebody into the office, then we will give you a discount on something. And in our practice, we have a warranty that we charge patients for if they want to have it. And we give them a free warranty, which is a very low cost for us. They may never use it, but it allows them to have something of value and to tell them that we appreciate what they've got in. Anything else, ladies, on marketing or how to share information with families and other people?
One thing that I do offer for my atropine program is if they renew by a certain date before it expires, and they've done that for every year, they renew before the expiration date, I send them an Amazon gift card. It's kind of like a way to give back to them and also to secure that annual renewal. And then one thing I do when they renew for 2 years is I drop the price a little bit. So it's a drop that they may have to use for 10 years, let's say, if they never want to do contact lenses. So, it's a big commitment from a patient perspective. And I like to give them that incentive. That's one thing I just thought of as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very cool.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for sharing your insights on becoming internet sensations with your myopia management practice, ladies.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Myopia Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe. And leave us a 5-star review, since we've been talking about how important it is us to ask for help so that we can help share this information with other people. Thank you. And please join us next time for the next episode of the Myopia Podcast.
We would like to thank Euclid for providing their educational support to make this podcast possible. This podcast was brought to you by Optometric Insights Media. If you enjoy our content, please leave a 5-star review. And don't forget to subscribe for more great episodes.